Hello, good people. My hairs are here. We're back again to serve your time. Now, today I have a very interesting story I want to share with you. Oh, it's so funny. Now, like, imagine, right? You set up about your day, like you have a plan, wake up in the morning, get your kids to, go do their usual, routine training. Kids play football, so, you're going for football and, you know, you're all set up. Also, you want to do like a workout while they're at it. So yeah, you get your gears ready. You start off, right? Drive to the sports center. Get there. All is good. Check the kids in. You know, get you geared up for your morning run, and off you set. So today that was me, like in that sense. But then along the way, you lose the keys to your car. You get kids stuck. After an hour or two of training, they're tired. They want to go home, right? And they have no change of clothes and all that stuff. So do you. But then come back to your car, find you got no keys. What do you do? Now, that was me this morning. And, like, it was such a funny story that in hindsight, you look back and like, okay, it was worth it. So that happened to me this morning. And you want to hear my experience and what I made about it, in relation to life. So let me start off with the story. So this morning, I think around 9 something a.m., I set off, take my kids to the usual, soccer academy and stuff like that. So I think like a day before, I had done like a medical to see where I am, because I've really added a lot of weight. This happened, I think, through December, January, when I had my kids around. So they're cooking so many things. So, I was testing a lot of this stuff. And in the end, I was doing too much fat, So, of course, I had to live with the consequences knowingly. And, as a result, I had to work backwards to get back in shape, which is still something I'm working on anyway. But yesterday, I said, okay, as I embark on this, journey, so I always do like a medical, just to check where I am. It comes down to my fat levels, my cholesterol levels and blood and sugars and all that. So the test came out okay, in the sense that I was, I think, borderline. I was getting close to what one would call borderline high. So that means that if you don't start the workouts, change your diet, change your lifestyle, you're certain that in maybe in a couple of months or so, either you're gonna get, your pressures are gonna go up, you're gonna have high sugar levels, it's gonna mess up your system, right? So I'm like, okay. Of course, I'd feel my body, because I know my body. I knew that somehow I need to do something. Anyway, but it was good to know what you're working with. So I'm like, okay, it's not too bad as I thought, but the warnings, the signs are there, so you gotta do something. Obviously, because now I'm with the kids, I'm like, guys, I can't do this stuff, but at least now I have medical evidence to it. So yeah, so that's something I'll come back to anyway. So I set up. I put my keys in one of my pockets. A friend of mine had gifted me an exercise, like jogging shorts. So I really didn't think too much about, because being that they're new. So I thought, I guess, sometimes you just assume, So I put my phone in one pocket with my earphone case, and my jogging phone, wrap, and then I put a bit of cash, because you never know, you need jogging, something you could need water or something like that. And also I think I had like my IDs and stuff on one side, and my car keys. Obviously, I would have left the car keys maybe with the management or something. That didn't. It just happens automatically. So off I go. I did about. I think the initial track was somewhere close to perhaps 7-8 kilometers. So like went up the hill, very nice views actually. I did a WhatsApp post on that, but also maybe I post a picture just to give you context. So I do my thing, and I think an hour later, or 2 hours later, I was done. So I get back to the sports ground. The kids were done. They were just waiting on me and stuff. Now I get to check my pockets. No keys. Like all my stuff is in the car. The kids want, my wallet, my other phone, and all my IDs other than what I had in the pockets. And so I was basically stuck, no cash, no nothing. So one of the coaches gets here and I say like, no, let's walk back. Let's see if you can find this key, because it's like a remote key. So it's not like, and unfortunately I called home and we didn't have a spare, and I had not really thought about it really. And this is a remote key, so that means if you have to get a spare, you have to find a Mac, get an extra key. They do the software coding and stuff like that, so you can actually, get a spare. This being a Monday, Easter Monday, most of the guys are closed off, they're still in holiday mode. Guys. So like, we walk the entire track again, trying to ask, stopping where I stopped, hoping that maybe because I bought some coffee along the way, I stopped there. I asked, no, they have not seen anything. Stopped wherever I stopped to take pictures. I went back to all that. So I did the track again, right? It's another like now 7 kilometers or so. Man, nothing. So at that point, I decided to call my Mac. Of course, he gave me some bit of hope, but it wasn't working. And then it doesn't do really keys, so I was trying to source someone who could actually help. No one was available, but I still hung in there. So what I did is, in the meantime, now when we came back and I couldn't find the keys, I decided, you know what? Let me find, other means. So I got another car, got the kids home. I actually got a bike. I think I don't know. I called. I think a bike, got the kids, so it wasn't really far, because I didn't have. I had another phone that is not necessarily my main phone, so I couldn't really order a ride or something like that, I guess. So, got the kids home, took a shower, changed, went back. Now going back, I was hoping that the meanwhile he was giving me hope that you could have probably found someone to assist. Now this is when we started off at. I went to the run around before 10. Now we're talking about past midday. Now I went to the house, came back, no, that's past 1. So in between I have conversations, and then I'm reminded that actually maybe there's a hole in your pocket. That's the last thing I could have thought of, totally. To my surprise, check my pocket. Truthfully, there's a hole. Now it changed everything. It meant that it could have been at the beginning of my trip, my jog, or so even my initial thinking that maybe it fell off because initially I thought maybe since I had phones and I kept taking out the phone, taking it back, it could have slipped. That also was ruled out. It could have been anything. Maybe it slipped off. It's a tiny remote key, black in color. And there was no contact on the key, so if someone could have found it, they really would not have had any ways of reaching us, So I go back to the house, change, and go back to the academy. Now going back, my idea was because I was at that point I was still convinced that the mechanic is actually finding someone. Said okay, so I said maybe I'll just see someone get some coffee now that I've changed. Maybe do something, do this video actually as I wait for on my make. But I think my sister was coming to the house and she was traveling out of the city, so and she had it clock on her timing, so it was either that I meet her somewhere close to where I was, or because she had come to my house. Then I decided, when I called the mechanic again, he made it clear that actually there's nothing I can do right now. I can't find anyone, being a holiday, so we have to wait until tomorrow morning. So then I thought about it, I'm like, okay, so there's no point in sitting somewhere, wasting money. I could just go back home, catch up with the kids and talk to my sister at my house. So yeah, got back to the house. Now, getting to the house, again, I was reminded that, are you sure the car is safe, because I hadn't really told someone to take care of it. Because we had like another key, a manual that actually can only open and lock, but it can't start the car. So in between, I called the coach, the soccer academy coach for the kids, and I told him, I said, no, I'd find someone, the guy who had actually worked with me, I'd find someone, that will ensure that the car is safe. Then I said, okay, fine. There's no point in me going back. But remember, on the third trip after changing, I still walked again, because now I knew it could have been dropped anywhere. Walked and walked and walked. I think I walked another 5 kilometers. I said, yeah, no, this is it. So at that point is when I said, let me just go back home. Now, so that is that is my reality, So as usual, I always think about the positives and the negatives. I always think about what do I learn from this experience, So when things happen to me, especially when I've done everything I could, it was not deliberate from my end, but I didn't set out to lose the key anyway. So I started asking myself, okay, what is the lesson here? So two things or three came to mind. The first thing initially was that maybe this could be default way of lack sort of meeting circumstances in a way, because if, let's say, having done that medical a day before, being told at your borderline, sugar levels, cholesterol levels, and stuff like that, pressure levels and things, so I'm like, okay, why not for losing this key? Perhaps I wouldn't have done like 7 kilometers, because when I checked, at the end of the day, I'd done 30,500 steps, which was equivalent to 4 hours, I think, and 16 minutes of walk and jogging. As a result, I had burnt around 1,600 or thereabout to 800, I think, calories. That was one hell of a workout, if you asked me. Like, okay, fantastic. Maybe this could be a blessing in disguise, perhaps this was one way of nature forcing me, or circumstances forcing me to put in the extra work, because otherwise I would not have really gone down almost triple my initial planned workout. That's one thing. But then when I realized that I had a hole in my jogging shorts, something else came to mind actually. Wait a minute. So I had a hole in these jogging tracks of mine shorts. But almost automatically, just like eating, you don't think about where the fork is gonna point your food, or when you're using your hand, you don't think about. You never put your food in your nose or your eyes. It just goes straight to the mouth, right? So naturally, in the same sense, I didn't think about checking my pockets really, because what are the odds that you'd have a hole in your pockets, front pockets especially, really, in jogging tracks or shorts? That's the last thing you think of. But I'm like, okay, hold on. Had I in the moment not taken that simple action for granted, maybe just consciously checked if my pockets were, in order, without being on an autopilot of sorts, perhaps I could have sort of like saved the day, as I somersault through life, right? Perhaps I could, because this action meant so many things, and so many things in terms of loss. I lost time, very, very, very bad. Like that whole experience was supposed to take me at least 2 hours. In the end, it took me about 5 hours. My kids were hungry, okay, and they kept on waiting. They were tired. They didn't deserve to go through that, right? The other thing is that I spent so much money. You have a car that you can't actually use, that has fuel that you can't utilize. So that means buying more fuel, getting other means, paying another driver or something like that. Then I did trips, like 4 trips in between that I didn't have to do, Now, I've not even mentioned the cost of replacing the key, because I don't even know yet, because that's not going to be cheap, certainly. Now I'm like, this was a very simple action of just me pausing and just checking to make sure that my pockets are okay. But how many of us in life pause and check out the holes in our pocket, check out the holes in our life circumstance, check out the holes in our life actions, right? Before we take any action, before we do anything, before we make the next move, the next adventure, the next decision, the next, walk away, the next, action, whatever it is, right? How often do we pause and ask ourselves, is there a hole in this action? Could there be a hole in this adventure? Could there be a hole in this stopgap? Could there be a hole in this inaction? How often do we do that? Majority of us, me inclusive, subconsciously or otherwise, almost zero. I think it's like 1%. You really, really, really have to be extremely alert. And life comes with so many circumstances. Like things present themselves to ourselves in so many different ways. You cannot be too careful in life, But how about you are intentional, Before you make that action, before you say that word, before you take that decision, before you choose not to take a decision, how often do you sit and reflect in the moment? Because sometimes if you don't act, you lose time, right? So these are some of the things these are the conflict narratives of life. Because for you to progress in life, you have to take action first, then track back later. However, what if you could actually have a balance, where you could have a slight stopgap just to check. If you're gonna start a car, is the car normally? Let's say if you're going to a long distance and driving, you would check the oil, check if the engine is okay, check the battery, check the water levels, check the coolant, check all those things, right? But in the experience of life as we know it, that's never usually the case, We don't often stop. We tend to, go with the flow. We tend to react or act with urgency, not really paying attention to the small details, right? And in the end, the holes in our pockets, in our life pockets, end up coming to bite us. They cost us heavily and dearly. So this car could be stolen. If it was maybe, let's say, on the roadside, it would have been worse. I probably would have had to tow it off, take it to a garage or to my house or something like that, or somewhere safer. That means breakdown costs. that means police or security costs. And it was purely that simple but innocent inaction of me not checking, right? Of course, on the plus side, I learned a valuable lesson, like this could be also a lifeline for me, because I'm sure now my cholesterol are gonna balance inadvertently anyway. It was going to balance my sugar level, so many positives as well. So I don't know if my story, something like that has ever happened to you and what you made of it. But this was not necessarily the first one, but it's something I actually, so because sometimes these things happen a lot of times. We never really talk, we just brush them. Oh gosh, I forgot the key. Oh my God, this is messed up. But then you don't sit back and reflect on that specific experience. I mean, I'm supposed to travel country. I don't have a car now, right? If I don't get this car repaired tomorrow, if I don't have to find an option, I have to find a means. Get another car, it's another expense, right? Inconvenience the people, or if this guy is, if I'm taking out from, supposed to do it has a schedule or something that has to wait, So many variables. I mean, tonight, if something happens and maybe a kid forcing, I need to rush them to hospital, I'll have to, I'll have to find a way. So much can go wrong, But the moral of the story is that there are so many holes in our life pockets. And you could save life, you could save a business, you could save a ship, you could save anything by simply pausing, okay? And checking your pockets, your life pockets. Look at this as a life experience, things that you go through every day. The decisions we make every day, the actions we take, the actions we choose not to take. And ask yourself, how much time have you lost? How much money have you lost in those small things? But it's not easy. At the same time, it's not. Because it's within the nature of who we are as humans, to go with the flow, to act with the urgency that is required anyway, to move with speed, okay? And when things backfire, to react. But I think that if those that continue winning in the game of life are those that are able to find that space, those 5 seconds to pause and say, wait, is all in order? The more organized ones that, but also it's a fine line, because also you don't want to be too careful. But perhaps you'd rather lose 20 minutes in making sure that you have everything in order, as opposed to losing 10 hours or 5 hours, and at a huge cost and at a huge risk of other resultant problems, right? So this for me was a reminder that, life as we know it has so many holes in its pockets, in every action or inaction. And for you to be able to stabilize it, for you to be able to win at it, you need to ensure that you look for that hole in that pocket. In the moment, you can pause, do it. And when you do so, certainly, you definitely be able to win in the game of life. So, my good people, that was me, that was my day, that was my challenge, that was my situation, and that's what I learned out of that situation. So, back at you. Have you identified the holes in your life pockets? But more importantly, if this video does anything for you, it should be a reminder that in every second of a decision, reflect on a hole in your pocket. Just try to ask yourself, could there be a hole in this pocket of this decision I'm going to make, or this action I'm going to take, or this inaction I'm going to take, before you say or do something? Because certainly there will be. And if you are able to pause and ask yourself and remind yourself, there's a very high chance that you will circumvent all these, unseen or unforeseen situations. And then that will make your life, as we know it, journey, a better experience. So let me know if you think that that could have been you, or if you had a similar experience. Come on, please share. We would love to know what your experience is. Just drop a comment, the video, and perhaps someone out there will learn from your experience, and we all collectively will be able to make life as we know it a better experience and live to our true fulfillment as humans, So, hope that this throws a lesson or two at you, and I'd be glad to, if you liked, shared, and followed, rather subscribe, so that we can continue building this community and doing this amazing work, serving our time as we keep somersaulting into a happy life. Because as you remember, life is all about a somersault. Sometimes you land on your feet, other times flat on the belly. I think this one is like, I sort of like landed halfway, I landed on feet and end up falling on the ground. But then you gotta stand up again, and you have to keep moving, keep winning. So, once again, enjoy the Somersault to Happy Life series. I hope that this video means something to you. What's the hole in your life pocket? Be mindful, look for it, and take care of it. Until next time, happy Easter holidays. I guess it's Easter Monday. And Mungu awabariki. God bless you. Mungu awabariki Africa. God bless Africa. Kwaheri. Richard out. Catch you in the next one. Stay strong. Keep safe. Happy Easter holidays. Ciao.